Hello and welcome to another episode of building the industrial zone in the city of Rockdale. Now, in this video, as you can see, we are continuing building the second lower quadrant, which is the quadrant that we were building in the previous video as well, the one that has the train station and those first Miyagi Motors buildings as well. Now, I'm just going to continue with the roads, obviously. This is a very important part because this area, right where the railroad goes across the river, this is the part of the industrial zone where we need to build some kind of an entrance to the second lower quadrant. Now, the second lower quadrant is the biggest, and unlike all the other quadrants, this one has 3 main lanes, which means that the entrances in here need to go to all these 3 lanes. So it's probably going to be slightly more complicated than the entrances to the rest of the area, but at the same time we are having these roads in a really nice way coming from the first lower quadrant, so it's not going to be that complicated at all. And actually on the live stream it didn't take me a long time at all to build this. As you can see, we have 2 parallel highways going kind of sunken below the surface level. Now, one of those is a return path to the main highway network from the first industrial quadrant, and the second one goes from the highway network towards this quadrant. Now then. The road closest to this quadrant is the one going from the Miyagi Motors station. So we have kind of 3 roads, one coming from the station, one from the highway network, and one from the first quadrant, from the first lower quadrant back to the highway network. Again, just like I said in the previous video, at the end of this sub-series, I'm going to do a video where I'm going to, in detail, explain each individual road in this in the entire zone, at least in the zone that we build in this sub-series. As you can see, it's coming along quite nicely. I'm not really, destroying and rebuilding a lot of the roads that I build here. That's because this was really clear on how to build this. It was very easy to do as well, because like I said, we had very nice already finished road network going from the first lower quadrant, so just making it enter the second lower quadrant was kind of simple. And I believe that it was quite clear on how to do this. I didn't really need to think about it too much. So again, each of these lanes in the second lower quadrant, they need to have 2 roads coming to them, one from the train stations, kind of looping back from the train stations, and one from the main highway network. And as you can see, we already did that. In here, I'm just trying to, again, make the basic 34-unit module, because I want to use the Miyagi Motors buildings. That train station I decided I want to have on the other side of the railroad. In here, I'm using the gravel roads again to paint, to kind of prepare or get the idea on where I want to have the rest of the connections. This is going to be the connection going from this quadrant towards the already built Miyagi Motors train station, the one that goes across the river or transports cargo across the river. And in here I'm trying to make it so that we obviously need to connect even to the station that we can see on the screen. The station that's going to transport cargo to the downtown. Also, this road is going to serve as kind of a loop road. And in here I'm, painting a question mark, because I was actually not exactly sure if I want to do that or not. Now, finalizing the position of the train station, as you can see here. Precisely building it to the already built railroad. Using the roads like that. Now, I wasn't exactly sure on how to do this, and well, again, I'm probably going to spoil some, future development, but In here, the station is not exactly going to work, and it's going to be apparent in the future episodes, in future videos. I'm not exactly sure how I planned it at this point, but obviously the train station in the game works, so that traffic needs to go to it. Well, if we are looking at it from this view right now, then the traffic needs to go from the right side and exit to the left side, because then the exit and entrance traffic is not going to intersect. So this, how I position the station in here, that's exactly the opposite. It's not going to work, and I'm probably going to have to redo it in the future. I didn't do it yet on the live stream, so what I'm saying right now is some kind of a plan that I'm not exactly sure how to do in the future, but it will definitely happen. I was experimenting with maybe switching the entrances and exits from the stations with using various mods, but it's not exactly working as I would like it to. Anyway, this road in here, it's going to be a loop back towards the second lower quadrant. As you can see, it goes towards the Miyagi Motor Station road network, kind of, and then enters the loop. That's kind of, well, that's just putting traffic back towards the second lower quadrant. Now, this was kind of complicated. I was not exactly sure how to do this. By the way, you might have noticed that I already built like an elevated road, two-level road actually. One elevated right above the lower one, near the station that goes to the downtown. The one that I was talking about. That's not exactly ideally positioned. And basically the lower road, the one on the surface, the one that we can see here on the surface, that's the one that goes towards the station, obviously. And this upper road, it's going to collect all the traffic from this quadrant, and it's going to put it to the Miyagi Motors train station that we built earlier. Now we need to somehow cross this railroad in here. I decided to do it, underneath it like that, but I was not exactly mindful of the trams. As you can see down there, we still have the unfinished trams, and they need to go somewhere, obviously. So this is probably when I started to think about it, and it became quite clear that now, obviously, with the trams, we need to cross the railroad that's on the surface in this view. So I destroyed all of this, and I actually changed how this all works. The surface road is pretty much going to stay, but the tram is then going to go like this, and then it's going to climb over that surface road there and the railroad as well. And there is going to be an intersection with the upper road, with the road that goes over the surface one, as you can see in here. So this road and the tram road is going to go parallel, as you can see, and then it's going to connect in here. And also this road, I'm going to use this road to actually go and loop back towards the rest of the industrial zone. You will see that in just a second. While I obviously first need to connect this. Now I'm going to destroy the gravel connection there, because I decided that I do want to do that connection. And it's going to be that road, as you can see, trying to use the road guidelines to make everything nicely parallel towards everything else. And just making a simple kind of a splitting point. Now this is the highway that it's going to connect it to, that I'm going to connect it to. And now, unfortunately, this is something that I mentioned even in like one of the earlier videos, that I don't exactly want to do like really high, traffic solutions. Like obviously making everything, multi-level on 5 levels is going to be super efficient, but it's not going to look exactly great. But in here I was forced to do 3-level solution. I had to go over the already elevated railroad. But it's just one road, so it's probably fine. But again, maybe it's going to change, I don't know. In here it was kind of clear that I'm going to waste a lot of space close to the railroad, which means that I tried to make it so that we can use this very nice industrial hall building. It's not going to be exactly efficient because I'm obviously placing this building towards a road that should not really have any buildings placed to it because it's just going to create some problems. But again, like I mentioned in the previous videos, I'm not trying to make it 100% efficient anymore. I'm just trying to make, well, that depends, obviously. If you want to have efficiency when it comes to, distributing the traffic towards the stations, then this is not it. But if you want to have efficiency when it comes to, for example, not wasting space in this entire area, then this actually is still kind of maintaining some efficiency. And obviously I'm trying to make it look nice. Now in here, this highway that's in the middle of the screen right now, that's going to collect all the traffic from this quadrant, and then it's going to put it, those little loops that I was building, it's going to put it to the upper road, and then at the end in here, this is going to be a kind of a complicated junction in here actually. This one took me a long time, by the way. In here it's going to loop to the lower road, and also it's going to continue straight back towards the highway network. So again, pretty much all three of the main industrial lanes in the second lower quadrant, again, they have, as I said, two roads going to them, one from the highway network, one from the train stations, and two roads going from them as well. Again, one to the highway network, one towards the train stations. Kind of simple. In here I'm trying to, this is again the continuation of the road that's kind of collecting traffic back towards the highway network. I made it go underneath that train bridge because again I'm trying to make everything kind of on the surface or at least below something. I don't really want to do high roads, high bridges of roads and stuff like that. It's never going to look nice. So like I said, this is going to be one of the split towards the train stations, and this, I thought that this would be the road that I'm moving right now. This is going to be the highway entrance. And when I built that factory hall, I also need to make sure that traffic from that factory hall can go back to the highway, which means that the lower road is not going to be only one-way road, two-lane one-way road, like I do always. It's going to be the asymmetrical 2+1 road. It's going to be kind of complicated for the traffic that wants to go to the factory hall, but as I said in the previous video, if I wanted to make it so that traffic from every building is able to go anywhere else in the zone, like super efficiently, super fast, then it would just be a mess, and I would need to do a lot of roads everywhere. So that's just too bad. That's just how it's going to be. Some traffic from some buildings, they are not exactly going to be able to go anywhere else, like efficiently. They will have to loop. They will have to go, kind of in a weird ways. But that's just how it needs to be. I'm obviously trying to please kind of the majority of buildings in here when it comes to traffic efficiency, but some of the buildings are just going to be not going to be that fine. But that's pretty much how it's done in real life. Just some buildings, and not just residential, like in general, buildings. Some buildings just cannot have, all the buildings cannot have like perfect, traffic situation. That's just how it is. In here I'm trying to continue at the beginning of the collector road that collects the traffic from the industrial lanes. This is the first industrial lane, or industrial street I should probably call it. It's not really one individual street. Again, I'm trying to make some like variety. In here, we are actually trying to move back towards the, well, not towards, but we are moving on towards the second upper quadrant, which is going to be the last one. As you can see, there is nothing in here yet. I'm just trying to make some terrain changes, terrain modifications, flattening the area basically. It's going to be lower by approximately 12 meters lower than the first upper quadrant. And this is going to be, well, in the rest of this video, I'm going to construct this kind of a last very important traffic junction kind of. And again, this also took me a long time. It was kind of hard to, think about it, or to decide, basically to decide, because again, there's like multiple ways you can do things in this game, and it just depends on kind of your imagination, I guess. So going over the railroad in here was kind of a challenge. I didn't want to go over it because again, I don't think it would look nice. So I decided to go underneath it and make use of some intersections. Not make the traffic, completely separated, but have it intersect at some points. At points where I thought, and I still think actually, that traffic is not going to be a problem. That sure, it will have to give the right of way to something, to some other traffic coming from other directions, but that's just what intersections are all about. And obviously, you can make intersections with high capacity as well. It's not like intersections are always low capacity. Sometimes they are fine, especially with, if you think that they are going to handle it. Now, the second upper quadrant, I did slightly differently. I wanted to make it so that the roads, the distributing roads, the main industrial streets, I'm actually going to make them like parallel and very close to each other. I'm not going to make them so that I can make the Miyagi Motors kind of a segmented, block in the middle of them, but I'm basically going to make them parallel so there's pretty much no space between them. But I'm going to make those buildings, on the other sides of them. As you can see here, those two roads are going very close to each other. Again, doing gravel roads to kind of mark what I need to build, where I need to build it. In here again, intersections. This is going to be the return path from the train station going into the downtown again. Just redoing the roads to make them one way. In here, I'm pretty much going to have all the roads going one way, as you can see. Now, this is going to be the path towards the train station that we built in probably the first episode, I think, from the first upper quadrant. In here, I'm using the traffic manager to select the lanes, or to define the lanes where cars can go, and setting up traffic signs as well. Just finishing up the quays in here so that the terrain might be very nice and flat without any, any of those ugly looking like rock faces or cliffs. Now in here, as you can see, I built it so that the gravel path to the station was having kind of a gap between the Miyagi Motors building and itself. So I'm actually going to build it so that we can have the Miyagi Motors building exactly align to the road next to the station. And I'm going to redo this main industrial avenue or street so that, it's aligned to that. So that means I need to redo this splitting point and this intersection as well in here. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to paint the lane connections completely from scratch again. That doesn't really matter too much. And again, this is going to be the road that was represented by the gravel path. It's going to be the return path from the station. And in here, I finally decided that I want to have the trams going in between those two avenues. And it's going to be really interesting. But we are going to see that in the next video because we are coming to the 20-minute mark of this one. I wish you a happy new year, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.